All set, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tracy and Tahina. So as I say, in case you don't know me, my name is Andrew Whittington. I've been Chief Executive at Merton Mencat for 13 years. And you'll know we're a local charity established for over 60 years or so. And our area of operation is only this borough. We run services and activities which support people who live or who are educated in Merton. For example, play schemes and weekend clubs for children aged 5 and upwards, with complex learning disabilities and complex care needs, special interest clubs and youth clubs for young adults with autism, peer counselling for parents whose child has recently been diagnosed with autism, and support for parents and carers of adults. And you'll probably know that Kids First is likely to be the longest running and largest forum of its kind by membership in London, having been set up by parents, and Tracy, who's on the call, getting on for 2 decades ago now. So I'm very pleased to be talking about independent travel training today, as earlier in my career I supported people to travel safely using public transport, and today I'm responsible for the travel training programs that we run at Merton Mencat. You'll have seen we're also pleased to be joined by our partners at Merton Council, Bridget and William, who support our travel training program, and we shall hear from later, and also on the call are my colleagues Radek Switalski and Michelle Scott, who are travel trainers for the charity. So for my part, let me show you what you'll be covering in my words this morning. You can see that on screen. I'll be talking about our travel trainers, who they are, how they're set up to run travel training programs and what's being offered. You'll want to know who is eligible for our program and how you can get travel training for your child if you both want it. So I'll be covering that. I'll be talking about what travel training entails. In other words, how we do it, what the training covers, which is a large part of my talk today, really. And finally, you can ask me anything you like about what I've said and the service we provide at the end. I hope that's close to what you've been anticipating you'd hear today, certainly from me. But if it isn't, ask me something during the Q&A part, or Tracy and Tahina will, I'm sure, add my email address to the chat or the comms, however they do things. So you can drop me an email or get in touch if you'd prefer to do it that way. Now, before I get going proper, just a quick show, just go back a slide, please, Tahina. Before I get going proper, just a quick show of hands. Who on the call would like the idea of being sent a mystery prize if you can answer one travel-themed question this morning correctly? I'm sure, of course you would, particularly on a Friday morning, right? Well, you're in luck. So here's a question for you to ponder during my talk this morning. That's not to say you shouldn't be listening carefully, of course, to my presentation, of course, as I'm sure you will. But when you have a moment, you can type in your answer to the chat at the end, and I'll reveal the correct answer. And the person who's answered correctly, or at least the closest, will be sent an amazing, wonderful mystery prize. If that is, you think a box of chocolates or biscuits is an amazing, wonderful prize, I think I do. Not that I'm giving away what that mystery prize is, you understand. But anyway, the question you have to have a go at, next slide, please, Tracy, is this. How many red London buses are there in London? How many red London buses do you think there are in London? As I say, type your answer into the chat box during my talk. I'll reveal the answer at the end, and the person who guesses nearest will receive an astonishing mystery prize from us. Simple as that. And I should say, as quizmaster, there are just 2 rules for this quiz question. Rule one is the quizmaster is always right, and rule 2 is when the quizmaster is wrong, rule 1 applies. Oh yes, and no Googling. I should have said that too. Anyway, right. now that I have your attention, let's get on with what I'm supposed to be talking about this morning. And my starting point this morning is about the programme itself and what it entails. Now, travel training is a relatively poorly understood area, quite understandably, as organisations across the UK offer very different and varied types of support. So we know that there are three types of, or a few types of travel training available out there. First, there's travel buddying, in which a travel buddy accompanies a person to use public transport or on foot, and this may be on a sort of medium and long-term basis. There's no instruction usually provided, and there's no learning really intended, particularly from those sessions. It's simply a companion service, really, a long-term companion. It's often called travel training buddying. Next, you may be familiar with programs which introduce people to the idea, the notion of traveling independently in the community. And colleges are very good often at offering this sort of thing, and they can be very good at providing this to small groups who are accompanied to travel a route during which the sort of important aspects of safe travel are pointed out and discussed within the group. And it can be a very effective way to introduce young people to traveling on their own, particularly if up to that point they've only ever traveled with their parent or family member or someone else. But what I'm talking about today is different from both those things. Independent travel training in this context is goal-based, objective-based program. It has one aim, and that is to support the person to attain the skills to become an independent traveller safely, usually between two identified points. For example, between home and school, between home and college. Now, our travel training program at MENCAP isn't intended as a long-term support. Its purpose is to support someone who, when we meet them, is reliant on others to help them around the borough, to transport them, and after our program ends, they can do that themselves. They can be traveling on their own. Now, our program works particularly well if a person has received travel buddying support like that, or had an introduction to community traveling in the way that I've just mentioned on the other two types of service that are available. As their starting point with us is a bit further forward. They already have a feel for being in the community without their parent or other person who usually supports them. Although this is not a prerequisite for our travel training program, the students work particularly well and respond particularly well if they've had some sort of support or introduction to the community. And it is worth probably saying too that parents, Kids First parents, often tell us that they want local services in social care, in health, in education, to be consistently provided. In other words, we know services aren't much help to families if they get set up and then they close after a year or two. And our business plan at MENCAP is that travel training has always been our plan to sustain it long term as an established means of support. So Radek Switalski, who's on the course, and Jane Birchmore, who's another of our travel trainers who manages this program and oversee it. They have 17 years experience between them of running travel training programs at MENCAP, and they've just been joined by Jenny and Michelle, who's on the call to develop things further. So anyway, I'm saying that our travel training program is practical support to help someone to learn to travel safely on their own. So let's get into this and let's say a word about this. The next slide, please, Tracy. So at Merton MENCAP, we employ 4 travel trainers who each work up to 4 days a week supporting trainees. it probably won't surprise you that training takes place in the local community, i.e. actually undertaking the route using public transport or perhaps on foot, whatever the case, depending on the route being travelled. Now, training takes place at the time that the trainee would be travelling on their own after the programme ends. So for a trainee learning a route, let's say between home and college, training is taking place early so they can arrive in time for their studies. And again, at the end of the day, when the trainee has finished college and heading home. So our travel trainers are meeting them at the starting point and accompanying them to the destination. And this is an important approach, of course, as the conditions on transport can, of course, be very busy at both ends of the day. So it's important that the trainee gets used to and can manage the environmental challenges of traveling. For example, coping with the noise during busy times and enclosed spaces, perhaps the unpredictability of things that can sometimes happen during busy times on public transport. And as I'll come on to later, learning the mechanics of using a bus or a train is often the more straightforward part. It's regularly being able to cope with all the other things that happen, knowing how to queue correctly at a bus stop, coping if something unexpected happens en route, like a train diverts or an argument perhaps breaks out between other people on public transport. So I'm saying we're providing route-specific training. Our travel trainers accompany the trainees on buses, on trains, on trams, on foot, depending where the journey is, how the journey is, and where the trainee is headed. And arrangements for the training, i.e. the dates, the times, they're all agreed beforehand with the trainee and the parents and the school and the college. We're involving them too, so they know that training is taking place. Now, training is provided one-to-one, so i.e. that's one travel trainer supporting one trainee. So it's not a group service provided in a group environment out in the community. And the duration of training can vary depending on the ability and the experience of the trainee, the complexity of the journey. But broadly speaking, we would normally anticipate trainees being able to complete our programme anything from a few weeks to a few months or so. And as I say, it varies considerably. Now, we've been running travel training programs for 10 years, as I say, and the reason we started, it won't surprise you, is that we saw young people with a learning disability and or autism were often being provided with transport to and from school and college, but there wasn't support very often that would likely help them to be independent. And so that means that they were very often being reliant on others for transport during their schooling and college years and then on into life. And we felt if we could support parents and their child by offering travel training programs in Merton, it would unlock a world of possibilities for the young person, including seeing friends on their own, making higher education, volunteering or getting a job much more of a realistic possibility, and also reducing reliance on the parents and the family too. So let's move on now. Next slide, please, Tracy, to the eligibility criteria of our programme. So the programme that we're contracted to provide under the Merton Council funding for young people is intended for people with a learning disability and autism aged 11 to 25. Just a word on ages. Many think 11 is young to be travelling independently, which it is, of course. And so our risk assessments determine the suitability of the trainees right at the beginning, particularly the youngest trainees who are referred to us. So everyone feels certain that our travel training program is being provided at the right time for the trainee. And similarly with the upper age limit, in practice, our student eligibility is mostly to 19 years, but occasionally training might be at college for a few years after 19, of course. We have another program of travel training funded by Merton for adults 18 and over, so referrals can be made to us for those who are young adults too. And as it says on the slide there, the trainee should be living or be educated in Merton. Not always the case. We're often supporting young people who might be living in Merton, but being educated in a neighbouring borough. And I think predominantly, as I said, it must be felt by everybody that it's the right moment for travel training for that trainee. The trainee has to be ready to derive the benefit from the training. For example, it may be that other things that are going on at the same time might prevent them from really benefiting from travel training, such as if they're having support with something else, and travel training would only complicate matters. So we assess that at the very beginning of our training too. And as I say, our trainees are usually qualifying or receiving transport from Merton, and I'll leave William and Bridget to cover those referral pathways later. So let's now move on to what you would expect from us if we were providing travel training for your child. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So the starting point is that our travel trainer will contact you to let you know they've received the referral, and you may join a waiting list at that point, or in which case that will be explained to you, or the travel trainer may say they can offer the service to you straight away. If it's the latter, if the service can be offered, the first action is that our travel trainer will arrange to meet you and your child, usually at home, to carry out our assessment, our initial assessment with you both. And we will, of course, already have details in the referral, including the likely destination for training, the method of transport for the journey. But it's our assessment meeting with you and your child, which is important because it covers aspects such as the child's medical and health considerations, their experience of traveling in the community at the moment or to that point, whether they've ever done it or tried it, how they currently cope in busy environments, phobias, fears, whether the person can use a mobile phone, whether travel training is included in their EHCP at this point, preferred communication methods with the person, and also why the trainee wants to be an independent traveller, particularly. For example, they may have seen a sibling grow up and be travelling independently, and they want to do so too, or perhaps their friends at school or college are travelling on a bus and they want to join them. And they already know people who are traveling independently and they want to do the same. Whatever the case, our travel training is at this stage concerned with building a profile of the trainee, their care needs, their likes, their dislikes, their motives for wanting to become a independent traveller. And next, our travel trainers will carry out a skills benchmarking with the trainee, in which they're establishing the current skill level in a number of areas. For example, can they recognise numbers? Do they understand and act on instructions generally? As I say, can they use a mobile phone? Can they send a text message? Can they use money or a travel pass? Have they done that at all? Are they able to tell the time? Can they use their mobile phone in an emergency? Have they ever had to do that? And have they ever had to cope in a difficult situation before in the community? That sort of thing is what we're we're benchmarking right at the beginning of the travel training process. And as I mentioned earlier, training is more than learning to board a bus or crossing a road. Our travel trainers are really planning contingencies and working on the whole area of skills development so that they feel that the person can be equipped with the resources and the skills to travel independently. And then after that stage, the travel trainer will confirm everything with the parent and the trainee, i.e. the journey, the times of training, when the training will likely start, etc. And that will also include research on the journey which needs to be undertaken. And our travel trainers will risk assess that journey, establish an alternative journey in the event that that primary journey isn't ever possible to be undertaken. And then training begins. Training plan is agreed and things start. And typically the travel trainer will arrive at your home at the agreed time, accompanying the trainee on an agreed route. And they won't leave the trainee on their own at any time during the training. And at the destination, the travel trainer will make sure the trainee has safely arrived, and will usually text and phone the parents to confirm that the journey is going well or has gone well, and their child safely at school or at college or whatever the destination is. And the travel trainer will keep in touch with the parents throughout the sessions as they continue, to let them know at the end of the journey how things have gone, whether there are any particular aspects of the journey that the travel trainer is needing to work on, and might tell the parents. So that can also be supported at home, perhaps at weekends, if the parent, if you're taking your child out. Now, our travel trainers are using a method for the training called systematic instruction. Now, if you're not familiar with it, it's the process of breaking down a task into its component steps and then providing instruction on those individual steps until the trainee can undertake each of them independently and without reminders or prompts. That is really the fundamental aspect of systematic instruction. That's at the rudiment of that instruction. So, for example, let's take a task of crossing the road. We've broken this task down into 7 component steps, which all need to be undertaken competently for someone to complete the task safely. And those steps are, the person would need to identify a safe place to cross, stop safely at the curbside in the correct position, look all around before crossing, listen properly before crossing, decide the safe moment, the safe time to cross, walk straight across without running, keep looking and listening, keep concentrating while crossing, and don't become distracted while crossing, arriving at the other side onto the pavement. So those are the component steps we feel of crossing the road. And so at the commencement of training, it's likely that our travel trainers will be guiding the training by giving instructions on each of those small components. And as the training progresses, the travel trainer may only be prompting the trainee, perhaps reminding them, e.g., what do we need to be doing now? What are we thinking about as we get to the edge of the pavement? And ultimately, the trainee progresses to a position where they are doing each component task on their own with no reminders, with no prompts. And it's at this stage that the travel trainer may feel the trainee is ready for the next stage of the training, which is accompanied shadowing. Now, in this context, shadowing means that the travel trainer will be present during the training session, but may not be alongside the trainee. So the trainer may be a few paces behind the trainee, as they're walking to the bus stop, or the trainer may not be sitting with the trainee alongside them on a bus or on a train. Now, in order for us to move to this next stage of accompanied shadowing, the travel trainer will seek the parents' permission for that to happen. Up to this point, of course, as I've said, the trainee will have been with the trainee at all times alongside them. But through our training, through their training and their observation, the travel trainer will be thinking that, will be assessing that the shadowing really is the stage to be moving to, and will be seeking parent consent based on their recording of their observations of the trainee. So once that stage has been undertaken, if that's been successful, the travel trainer may feel that they want to move to the next stage, which is accompanied independent travel. And again, they will approach the parent for consent for this next stage to happen. And what we mean in this context is that the travel trainer will be moving to a situation where they will still be present within the training session, but they may be accompanying the trainee to the bus stop while the trainee boards the bus and takes the remainder of the route themselves to the school or college. So they might be undertaking some of the journey on their own. Now, of course, we need permission for that to happen, because at that point, the trainee is either being with them and alongside them, or be doing the shadowing stage. So this is the stage when the trainer is really fading and making sure that the trainee is still arriving at the destination by checking in with the school and the college, speaking to perhaps the tutor or the teacher to make sure that the trainee has actually arrived there safely, and then reporting that to the parent, and keeping the parent advised during that process of independent travel during training sessions. And then, of course, all being well, if the trainee has undertaken all aspects of the journey, including the contingency, it will be at that point that the travel trainer will consider that training really is drawing to a close, and we'll be saying to the parent and trainee, we think you're now undertaking the journey, you've learned all aspects of it, and we think we now can recommend that you become an independent traveller. And it's at that point that the parent can decide, of course, that that they're happy for that to happen, and if the trainee is now wanting to travel between home and school or home and college completely on their own, arrangements will be made for transport long term to allow that to happen. Now, what I should say here is that the follow-up, it's all in the follow-up, because things can, of course, happen. People can lose their confidence during the after training is end. It can happen sometimes, and in which case, what our travel trainers are here to do is to follow up if they need to. What we don't want is for people to then feel there's been a situation perhaps and they've lost their confidence and they don't want to travel independently again. We want to help them in that situation. So our travel trainers can continue to provide support if they're told about this problem, and they sometimes reopen a student's training and support them. And it might also be that the trainee moves from school to college and they need some support for a new route, and just some help to get used to the particulars of that new route, in which case we can be contacted. What we've just started, actually, and just introduced a couple of months ago, is that we will be doing some follow-ups with all the people that we've trained a month and 3 months later, just to call and say, is everything okay? Is there anything we can do on the travel training. Is there anything you need? Is it all going all right? So to sum up, I'm saying that travel training for young people is for those from 11 upwards. We're saying that the person would need to have a learning disability and or autism and be educated or be a Merton resident. Can be educated, of course, in neighbouring boroughs. We're saying that there's a number of pathways into the service. You could be referred perhaps by the school. The school might identify it. You may also want to find out and want to contact through transport, and we can receive referrals that way. What we're trying to make is there's no wrong door. So just let somebody know that you're interested in transport and travel training, I should say. We'll do the rest and liaise together to see whether that can happen. On referral, it's all in our assessments and our benchmarking. It's a systematic instruction program of training where we're looking at competencies much wider than just whether somebody can identify the bus and board it and then ring a bell and disembark. It's a much wider program than that. There are then these stages of accompanied shadowing and accompanied independence before the person is signed off as completing the travel training program. And then when they are signed off, next slide, please. We provide certificates. There's Radek with one of his students, provide certificate, and the person is able to continue on their way, and we are very pleased for them. Next slide, please. So before I head over to pass you on to Bridget and William, you may recall I asked a question right at the beginning, which would produce an amazing mystery prize. How many Red London buses are there in London? I think you may have had time to. Do we have any answers in the chat? Have people answered, Tracy? Do we have?
We've got 3 answers, Andy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll let people just mute on that a bit further, and perhaps right at the very end, I'll reveal the answer. But okay. Next slide, please. For the moment, I think that's all from me on our travel training program. I hope that's been useful. As I say, you can get my email address from Tracy or Tahina, and please do follow up if there's any aspect of the program that you'd like to know more about. So we'd be very pleased to speak to you about it. One new aspect of the program before I end my words is that we shall be soon starting a course on travel training, which we're going to be offering to schools and colleges, where over a 6-week period we'll be going in and in small groups introducing travel training to students who perhaps have never done training on their traveling on their own before, and that will involve various tasks and games and so on to introduce the idea of it. And the purpose of that is to see whether there might be students who might be interested in the program, either with us now or in the future, so they can see what it entails. But more on that to follow. But for the moment, thanks so much for listening. Hope that's been useful, and I'll hand you over or hand you back, one of those, to Tracy and Tahina. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Bridget, William, are you happy to continue with your?
Yeah, sure. Hi, morning, everyone. I'd just like to say thank you for joining the session this morning, and Andy, thank you for your presentation. It's always good to hear from the travel trainers themselves as well in respect of travelling. So I'm Bridget Creasy. I'm the Transport Assessment and Commissioning Manager for Merton, and that obviously includes the independent travel programme that we're running for children's schools and families. William Dieppe is our transport coordinator, and he manages our transport applications and also any referrals in respect of the independent travel training. I would like to say and reiterate Andy's point that, you know, our referrals can come from schools, parents directly, and sometimes we have students actually say to our transport team that they'd like to do independent travel. And in those instances, if it is reported to us, then obviously we will have those conversations with parents to see what their views are on it and so forth. So the referrals can come from anywhere, really. I am also happy to hear, obviously, that there is a programme starting in relation to Merton going into schools, and I know Andy's working very hard on getting that into place to promote travel training, because I do think it's really important for our young people to have travel training where it's possible for them, and it promotes independence for them, which is only a good thing. I would like to say also that William is our main point of contact in regards to it, and he will obviously gather all the referrals up and liaise with Merton MenCap in regards to any referrals that are received. And obviously, I know that MenCap are very good in keeping contact with parents who are perhaps not having the travel training currently, but obviously on the waiting list. So they are very good at updating parents and letting them know what the situation is in regards to where travel training is in respect of their own particular child. In regards to travel training, Andy mentioned and touched on the travel training and the eligibility. Now, obviously, we're working alongside the Merton Transport Policy. So we are working within that remit of our transport policy, which is obviously to provide as much travel training, certainly for our post-16 students. But that's not to say that obviously we don't do training for any other students. The age range, as William mentioned, as Andy mentioned, is from the age of 11 upwards. It does generally go to the age of 19, but we do have some learners that obviously have travel training after that age group because they're still within the transport remit and they're going to college and so forth. So the age range is generally between age 11 and 19, but it can go further from that. In respect of who we assess and who we agree for travel training, that's obviously a two-pronged approach. So anyone that receives transport currently is obviously eligible for travel training, but that's not to say if they don't receive travel transport from Merton that they can't apply. It may well be that parents are transporting their children to school and are happy to do so, but they want the independence for their children, so obviously they can apply. So anyone that lives within Merton and obviously travels to school and has an EHCP, then obviously can apply for travel training in regards to that side of things. William, as I said, is our contact in regards to that, and I believe there will be some information on some of the Merton websites that give information in regards to travel training and how to apply. But if there are any issues or difficulties, then you can always contact the Transport Commissioning Team or William Dieppe within Merton, and he can guide you in regards to where you need to go to get that information or to apply. I'm going to give the mic over to William, because obviously he's our main contact in regards to our travel training, and he'll be able to guide you further in regards to that. But thank you all again for attending the session today. It's great, obviously, to see parents involved in respect of travel training and finding out the information to it. But we wholeheartedly support our travel training within Merton.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Andy, as well, for explaining the mechanics of travel training. Yeah, Bridget's taken it a lot out of my mouth, but I just want to speak a little bit about, you know, how we view ITT in travel training in the council and how we're taking it further and how important we see it is. So in the council, we're keen to see our children and young adults travel training. We believe is a powerful tool to gain independence, and we see it every day where we transport children from a young age, and when they get to the college age, sometimes is a big barrier for them to go on to higher education or go straight to work. As a we take it for granted every day, transport, but it's a major factor. Obviously, we don't take notice of that. But yeah, we're very excited and invested in our partnership with MenCap. We've already provided extra funding to MenCap, and before we was three trainers, and now we're up to 4. And we look to expand our services a lot more. So that's we're working on that together, and also the MenCap team. Me, Radik, Jane, Michelle, Bridget, Andy, we all went on a accredited course together. It's quite fun, but we was honing our service, honing our skills, and delivering our service better. So we're doing all that work. Like Bridget said, I'm your main contact. So any questions, please, send it to myself or sentransport@merton.gov.uk. There's a lot of familiar names I see today, so a lot of parents do know who I am. I work with parents closely every day, so you know who I am. But yeah, as I said, our main, we have a big focus for the 16 plus, but that doesn't mean you can't send any referrals to us. I invite any referrals. The main front of it is you have to live in Merton. So even if your school's outside Merton, it doesn't matter as long as you're living in Merton and you're on a transport or personal travel assistant budget. Please still send it through. If you're in doubt and you're living outside Merton, you can you can speak to local borough, speak to your schools. But if you're in doubt, just send it to myself. I'll guide you to the right direction. So either way, we'll point you to the right direction. Yeah, so let me see if I've covered everything. Andy and Bridget's covered a lot of it. So yeah, so we're taking it serious. At the council, we feel it's a powerful tool. Yeah, if there's any questions, I don't know if we're gonna have a FAQ after this, or you put in a chat and I can answer it. If you don't have any and you think of one later, please send it to myself or send it to sentransport@merton.gov.uk and I'll answer it for you. Okay, I'll probably take it back to Tracy.
Thank you, William. Thank you, William. Thank you, Bridget. Andy, I'm not sure if there was anything else you wanted to add to what William and Bridget have just said.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tracy. Yes, before I bring in Michelle and Radik to say hi, I just wanted to say that we do have spaces actually currently for travel training at the moment. So if there are parents on the call who are interested in exploring this with us, please do get in touch. Or I know there is a really strong learning disability and autism community within Merton. So perhaps another parent who has been talking about travel training for their son or daughter, and in which case, please, ask them to get in touch. We'll be very pleased to support them. So I asked Michelle Scott, who's our recent recruit to the travel training team. We're delighted that Michelle joined us to provide travel training to students. So I'm going to be asking her to say a couple of words in a moment. And Radik Switelski, who's been with us, you'll know Radik for many, many years, over a decade. He's been running travel training programs for us. Radik, did you want to start off by saying hello, please?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I've been providing travel training within Merton MenCap charity since 2014. And I initially started as a weekend travel trainer, been providing travel training service for our service youth who are attending our projects, usually during weekends, clubs within London Borough of Merton. And then there was an opportunity to progress to increase number of hours. So currently I'm working as a full-time travel trainer, and within actually 2 schemes, LBM 24 days a week, and also BBC Children in Need thanks to additional funds, which allowed us to provide travel training service also for young people who are not on LBM transport, which it takes every Monday. Yes, so Monday BBC and Tuesday to Friday LBM travel training. And yes, it's I would like to say from my side, it's very rewarding. It's very highly rewarding work, especially when you come to the point that student is about to be signed off, and you can see the great level of satisfaction and pride where they present it. They gain a certain level of independence, which allow them to travel independently to places, be similar exactly like as Andy mentioned, like their friends or siblings. It really boosts their self-confidence level, self-esteem, and it's really great to see it. It's really great to see it, that the hard work brings such a good positive effect, which not only has the effect on the student itself, on the training itself, but also on the families and carers. Simply makes the life a little bit easier as well. We definitely, yes, as Andy mentioned, looking forward to start our 6 weeks travel training course within school, the college's environment, the classroom environment. It will be a great experience for all of us, and I'm sure lots of young people will benefit out of it. It will be great also potential just to identify young people who can be travel trained in the nearest future and give them the opportunity to access the service. Yes, in the case of any queries, please don't hesitate to ask also travel trainers directly for any kind of specific questions regarding the training itself. Our email address is accessible on Mer2Menka website, and yeah, please feel free to do so. Okay.
Thank you very much, Radek. And that's right. We have, just to pick up on the point about our travel training programs at Merton Mencap, we have the program that we've been talking about today principally, which is the Merton contracted and funded program. And so that we can reach young people who may not qualify under eligibility for that program, we're really pleased to secure funds from BBC Children in Need to reach young people who we needed to. So that's been running for a few years too. So our plan really, we know how important travel training and being able to travel independently is to young people and their families. So we want to reach, our plan really is to reach as many young people as we can to help them with this aspect. But in doing so, as William mentioned, we extended our contract thanks to Merton's support for our travel training program, which we're so grateful to. And it really is a partnership. I think we all feel that we communicate ever so well together as a team at Merton Mencap and with Merton Council to promote the service and to reach families. And because we extended our contract, we were really pleased to recruit Michelle Scott to join the travel training team, who joined us proper in the beginning of September and working 4 days. So I'll hand you over to Michelle Scott. Michelle.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the travel training presentation. I'm a newbie, so I've just started travel training. I started officially in beginning of September. And so I work Tuesdays to Friday, flexible hours, you know, it could be in the evening, I'm flexible. So I'll give you a bit of a brief background about myself. I've supported adults with disabilities for about over 15 years. It was more in the employment sector. I also set up an retail employability program for Croydon, which was a success. So I have a lot of experience of supporting different disabilities. And the travel training, I'm so excited to start the travel training service because I'm very, very passionate about supporting people with barriers. So please bring in your referrals. I'm friendly, we're all approachable. I'm looking forward to, with my team, delivering service to schools, to let them know what we're about, what we provide. We are very passionate for our Merton residents. And yeah, so I look forward to seeing some of the parents, your children, your siblings, to come onto the service. What I see, well, I've just started working with a young person at the moment, and it's going brilliantly. Just to see someone, their confidence grow, and to see the outcome that, they didn't believe that they could, travel by themselves. But what we do, when we provide the sessions, it's very important for it to be meaningful as well as fun. For them to know that, as much as this is, a serious service in terms of, empowerment, we do make it, meaningful, fun, we engage, it's like everybody's getting to know each other. And that's and you'll get the best outcome for the students as well as the parents, So yeah, I won't go on because I can drift. I'm very passionate about how we support, and how MenCap is all about empowerment and moving on for independent living. So yeah, I will say no more, and I look forward to seeing you all and your children, your siblings that live in Merton. And yeah, let's get this moving. It's a positive, move. It's not just for today or tomorrow. It's a lifetime, So please. Come, I'm open, so please do come and send me an email if you want to get to know me, because your children or your daughter, your son, your siblings will be, I will be supporting them. So it's nice for you to get to know me, to know how I will also be supporting your siblings. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Michelle and Radhik. And they can say it much better than I ever could, really, about how dedicated we are to supporting young people, young adults with a learning disability and autism under this programme to become independent travellers. So it opens up so many possibilities, of course, for them for life if they can learn those skills, as Michelle and Radhik rightly so. So that's us. Thanks for listening this morning. Really pleased to answer any queries that you have about the programme, how it works, and I'll hand back to Tracy and Tahina. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Michelle and Radhik, and Bridget and William. Andy, I wasn't sure if you were going to touch very slightly on the travel training for adults also at this session, or just take questions if people have any questions about.
I'd like to, please, if time allows, if I could have a moment. So
yeah, because I did mention in advertising that we would touch on that a little bit, and I think there are some people here that may be interested to hear about that.
That's super. That's great. Thank you. Well, as I said at the beginning of my talk, our focus for a decade has been to provide travel training programs for young people, young adults with a learning disability. But this year, Adult Care Services has supported us to extend that for a year's pilot for adults with a learning disability, 18 and over. So we recruited Jenny Lockett, who you may know at Merton MenCap runs our community sports and community challenge clubs, and what you may have also seen her at our community cafe on Mondays and Wednesdays, working there sometimes. But Jenny Lockett also joined us a few months ago to support adults to become independent travellers too. Now, of course, that's a slightly different approach there, because there could be a range of destinations that somebody wants to travel to, not limited to school and college. It might be, it might be college, higher education. It could be a day centre, it could be a job, volunteering, a placement that they're undertaking, or it could be that they regularly like going to one of the the towns within Merton, Wimbledon, perhaps to meet friends and go shopping there. And at the moment, they're being accompanied, and they'd like to do that journey on their own. So that's why we have extended it, because we think there are people 18 and over who perhaps have never had the chance, never had the opportunity to become an independent traveller, and they're a bit older now and still want it, and we want to help them. So if you know somebody, or perhaps you're on the call and you think, you know, there is somebody with a learning disability or autism who could benefit from travel training, please do get in touch with me, or as Radek says, all our details are on our website and social media. So just one of the ways that you choose, get in touch with us. Speak to Tracy or Tahina if you prefer, and we'll talk about that. Now, that service is only 2 days a week at the moment, so for a pilot until April, but we're very much hoping we'll extend it, because as I say, travel training is a long-term venture for us. So I hope that's a help. The message is we're now doing it for young people and adults with a learning disability and autism. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Right, I'm going to pause the recording now so that we can open the floor to questions.